Dr. Kim Hana floated in the zero-gravity chamber of the Pioneer's dream, her eyes fixed on the massive alien structure ahead. The research station hung like a jewel against the dying red star, its surface covered in symbols from civilizations humanity had never met. After 3 months of travel through the cold depths of space, they had finally reached their destination. "Captain Lee Ji-won, you need to see this," Hana called across the bridge. Her voice carried a mixture of excitement and fear that made everyone on the ship stop what they were doing. Captain Ji-won pushed off from his chair and drifted over to her station. His weathered face reflected the strange blue light coming from the alien station. "What are we looking at, Doctor?" Hana pointed to her scanner readings. "It's not empty like we thought. The station has been running by itself for thousands of years. The power systems are still working, the computers are still active, but there's nobody home. The technology here is far beyond anything we've ever built." Engineer Park Min-soo came back from his spacewalk, his white suit covered in dust and strange markings. "Captain, this place is incredible. I counted docking ports for at least 40 different types of ships. Some of the materials I found don't match anything in our databases. If we could understand how they work, we could change everything." The team spent hours exploring the outer sections of the station. Every corridor revealed new wonders. Machines that seemed to repair themselves. Walls made of materials that were harder than diamond, but lighter than aluminum. Energy conduits that carried power without any visible source. But the real discovery came when they reached the central archive. As soon as Hana stepped into the chamber, the room came alive. Holographic displays filled the air with star charts, biological data, and records from dozens of different alien races. "Look at this," Hana whispered, her voice full of wonder. The displays showed detailed information about species they had never imagined. The Vorthak were beings made of living crystal, who could predict the future using advanced mathematics. The Zephyrians were like ghosts made of energy who could travel through space without ships. The Keepers were ancient beings who had been collecting knowledge for millions of years. Communications officer Yoon Tae-hyung worked with the translation systems, slowly making sense of the alien languages. "Dr. Kim, these records go back thousands of years. Every one of these species achieved space travel long before humans even discovered fire." As the hours passed and more data was translated, a strange picture began to emerge. All of these alien civilizations were incredibly advanced. They had technology that could travel between stars in days instead of years. They had weapons that could destroy entire planets. They had computers that could predict the future with perfect accuracy. But something was wrong with the picture. Despite all their power and knowledge, none of these species had left their home star systems in centuries. They had built exactly one colony each, then stopped. They had the power to spread across the galaxy, but they chose to stay home instead. "I don't understand," said Park Min-soo, studying the star charts. "The Vorthak have had faster-than-light travel for 10,000 years. The Zephyrians can move through space like we move through air. The Keepers have mapped every star in the galaxy. So why are they all still sitting at home?" Hana spent the next several hours digging deeper into the records. She found detailed plans for colony ships that were never built. She found resource surveys of hundreds of planets that were never visited. She found military strategies for defending territories that were never claimed. "They're all just watching," she said finally. "Every single one of these civilizations has become a race of observers. They study the universe, they record everything that happens, they analyze every piece of data they can find, but they don't actually do anything with all that knowledge." Captain Ji-won stared at the holographic displays, showing the locations of dozens of alien homeworlds. Each one was surrounded by massive sensor arrays and observation platforms. Each one was receiving data from across the galaxy. But none of them were sending out colony ships or exploration fleets. "It's like they've all decided that watching is safer than participating," Tae-hyung said. "They know everything about the universe, but they're afraid to go out and experience it." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't alone in the galaxy, but they might be the only species still willing to take risks. While other civilizations had chosen safety and certainty, Humans were still launching themselves into the unknown with nothing but hope and determination. As Hannah compiled her report for Earth, she couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled onto something much bigger than just an abandoned research station. They had discovered that the galaxy was full of intelligent life, but that intelligence had led to caution, and caution had led to stagnation. The question that kept running through her mind was simple, but terrifying. What had made all these advanced civilizations so afraid of leaving home? And more importantly, what would happen when they discovered that humanity had no intention of staying safely in one place? The Pioneer's dream continued its orbit around the ancient station, its crew unaware that they were already being watched by the very civilizations they had just discovered. Dr. Kim Hannah had not slept for 2 days. She sat in front of the alien computer system, her eyes red and tired but her mind racing with excitement. The Vorthak prediction system was unlike anything humans had ever created. It could calculate the future with scary accuracy. Tae-hyung, come look at this, she called to the communications officer. Yoon Tae-hyung floated over to her workstation, carrying a cup of coffee that looked like it had been reheated several times. What did you find now, doctor? Hannah pointed to the holographic display that showed thousands of branching paths like a tree made of light. This is why they stopped exploring. The Vorthak built a computer that can predict every possible future. Every choice, every action, every consequence. And when they looked at what would happen if they spread across the galaxy, they didn't like what they saw. The data was overwhelming. According to the Vorthak calculations, interstellar expansion led to disaster in most cases. Wars over resources happened in 73% of all possible futures. Different alien cultures would clash and destroy each other in 89% of scenarios. Complete collapse of civilization occurred in 61% of outcomes. Look at this section, Hannah said, highlighting a part of the display. They ran simulations for over 1 million different expansion strategies. Fast expansion, slow expansion, military expansion, peaceful expansion, scientific expansion. In almost every case, the species that tried to spread across the stars ended up destroying themselves or others. Tae-hyung studied the numbers with growing unease. These aren't just guesses. These are detailed mathematical models based on thousands of years of observation. They've watched other species try and fail. The records showed examples. The Corvani had spread to 23 star systems before a civil war tore their empire apart. The Thessian Republic had grown to control 50 worlds before they encountered another expanding species and fought a war that left both civilizations in ruins. The Wanderer fleet had traveled for 3,000 years before running into something in deep space that destroyed them completely. The Vorthak saw all of this, Tae-hyung said quietly. Every mistake, every disaster, every failure. No wonder, they decided to stay home. But the Vorthak weren't the only ones who had chosen safety. Hannah found similar reasoning in the records of other species. The Zephyrians had discovered that leaving their homeworld would change their very nature. Their bodies were made of energy that was connected to their planet's unique magnetic field. If they traveled too far from home, they would literally stop being themselves. Look at this log entry, Hannah said, translating a Zephyrian record. We are creatures of the cosmic wind that flows through our world's sky. To leave would be to become something else entirely. We would gain the stars but lose our souls. The Keepers had their own reasons for staying put. They believed that true knowledge came only from careful observation over long periods of time. Action corrupted understanding. Movement created chaos that made it impossible to see the deeper patterns of the universe. We are the guardians of wisdom, read one of their ancient texts. Our purpose is not to change the galaxy, but to understand it. Every action we take creates ripples that make it harder to see the truth. Engineer Park Min-soo joined them in the archive chamber, his face grim. I've been going through the technical specifications of their ships. Doctor, some of these vessels could cross the entire galaxy in a few months. The Keepers have engines that could move faster than anything we've ever imagined, but their newest ships are all designed for observation, not exploration. The pattern was clear across every species they had found records for. Advanced civilizations reached a point where they had enough knowledge to see all the risks of expansion, and they chose to avoid those risks by staying home. They became watchers instead of explorers, observers instead of participants. 6 months later, when their data finally reached Earth, the reaction was immediate and chaotic. President Nam Subin called emergency meetings with every major world leader. Scientists demanded more information. Military commanders wanted to know if these alien civilizations posed a threat. But the most interesting reaction came from Admiral Cho Hyunwoo, who was in charge of humanity's space expansion program. His message back to the pioneer's dream was short and simple. Dr. Kim, your discovery is fascinating, but it doesn't change our plans. In fact, it makes me more determined than ever to push forward. Within weeks of receiving the report, Admiral Cho had accelerated construction on humanity's largest colony fleet. 12 massive ships that would carry 30,000 people to 7 different star systems. The project that had been planned to take 10 years was now being completed in 18 months. They know the risks and they're doing it anyway, Park Min-soo said, reading the updates from Earth. Every other species in the galaxy looked at the dangers of expansion and decided to stay safe. But humans are different. Dr. Hana stared out at the stars through the station's observation window. Somewhere out there, the Vorthak were watching with their perfect prediction models. The Zephyrians were drifting through their nebular cities. The Keepers were adding new entries to their endless libraries, and humanity was preparing to do what none of them had dared to do in thousands of years. They were getting ready to leap into the unknown, regardless of the consequences. The Vorthak ships appeared without any warning. One moment Captain Lee Ji-won was drinking his morning coffee on the bridge of the Pioneer's Dream, and the next moment, 5 crystalline vessels were hanging in space around the alien research station. The ships looked like they were made of living glass, their surfaces reflecting the light from the dying red star in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Captain, we're receiving a transmission, Communications Officer Yoon Tae-hyung said, his voice tight with nervousness. It's coming, from the lead ship. The signal is what is strange. It's not radio waves or laser communications, it's something else entirely. Dr. Kim Hana rushed to the bridge from her lab, still wearing her research clothes. Are they hostile? Do they have weapons powered up? I can't tell, said Engineer Park Min-soo, studying his sensor readings. Their technology is so advanced that I can't even identify what most of their systems do. But they're not moving aggressively, they're just waiting. The transmission that came through the speakers was unlike anything they had heard before. It sounded like crystal chimes mixed with mathematical equations, but somehow the station's translation system was able to convert it into words they could understand. Greetings, species called human. We are the Vorthak Collective. We have been observing your activities at this research facility. We must speak with your leaders immediately. Captain Ji-won looked at his crew. They were millions of miles from Earth, facing an alien species that had technology beyond their understanding. But they had come here to make contact with alien life, and now they had their chance. This is Captain Lee Ji-won of the Earth vessel Pioneer's Dream. We're explorers and scientists. We come in peace. Dr. Kim Hana is our senior researcher. She's been studying your records in the station's archives. Dr. Kim Hana, you will come aboard our vessel. We have critical information that your species must receive before you proceed with your expansion plans. An hour later, Hana found herself in a transport pod, traveling toward the largest Vorthak ship. The inside of the alien vessel was like being inside a giant crystal cave. The walls were transparent and seemed to pulse with their own light. The Vorthak beings themselves were even stranger than their ships. They looked like walking sculptures made of living crystal, with geometric patterns that shifted and changed as they moved. The Vorthak representative who met her was tall and angular, with a head that looked like a complex mathematical equation, carved in diamond. When it spoke, the words seemed to come from everywhere at once. Dr. Kim Hana, we have monitored your species' preparations for galactic expansion. You are planning to send colony ships to multiple star systems. This is a grave error that will lead to catastrophic consequences. The chamber around them filled with holographic displays showing probability charts, statistical analyses, and outcome predictions. The numbers were overwhelming and terrifying. We have created prediction models based on observations of 14,126 species across this galaxy's history, the Vorthak explained. Species that engage in rapid interstellar expansion face a 73.2% probability of civilizational collapse within 5 centuries. There is a 94.7% chance of triggering galactic conflict with other species. The probability of accidentally destroying inhabited worlds is 28.9%. Hannah studied the data, her heart sinking as she realized how detailed and accurate the predictions appeared to be. These numbers, they're based on actual historical events? Correct. We have observed the rise and fall of thousands of civilizations. The Corvani Empire expanded to 23 systems before civil war destroyed them. The Thessian Republic grew to 50 worlds before encountering the Makari Horde, leading to a war that eliminated both species. The Wanderer fleet traveled for 3 millennia before encountering the Void Hunters in deep space. The holographic display showed images of destroyed worlds, dead civilizations, and the wreckage of once great empires. Every example supported the Vorthak's conclusion that expansion led to disaster. But there's more, the Vorthak continued. Your species shows particular risk factors. Humans are aggressive, unpredictable, and prone to conflict even among themselves. You lack the unity necessary for safe expansion. You make decisions based on emotion rather than logic. The probability of human expansion causing galactic catastrophe is significantly higher than average. Hannah felt a chill run down her spine. What are you asking us to do? Abandon your expansion plans. Return to your homeworld. Become observers, like the rest of us. We will share our knowledge with you. You can study the universe from safety. You can achieve understanding without risking destruction. And if we refuse? The Vorthak's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been confusion. Refuse? Why would any rational species choose certain disaster over guaranteed safety? We have shown you the mathematical proof. The evidence is overwhelming. Hannah looked at the data surrounding her, at the detailed predictions of humanity's failure. Part of her wanted to accept the Vorthak's offer. It would be so much easier to stay safe, to avoid all the risks they were warning about. But then she thought about the human colony ships being built back on Earth, about the 30,000 volunteers, who were ready to leave everything behind for a chance to see new worlds. She thought about the spirit that had driven humans to explore every corner of their own planet, to climb the highest mountains, and dive to the deepest ocean trenches. You've calculated every risk, she said finally. Every possible way we could fail. But you haven't calculated what we might accomplish if we succeed. The Vorthak's form flickered with incomprehension. Unknown variables cannot be calculated. They represent unacceptable risk. To you, Hannah replied, but humans have never had perfect knowledge about anything. We've always had to make decisions, without knowing how they'll turn out. We've always had to take chances. The meeting ended with the Vorthak more confused than when it began. They could not understand how any species could proceed knowing the odds against them. Admiral Cho Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the flagship New Horizon, watching as 12 massive colony ships prepared for departure from Earth orbit. Each vessel carried thousands of colonists, scientists, engineers, and everything they would need to build new homes among the stars. Despite the warnings from the Vorthak, despite the mathematical predictions of disaster, humanity was about to take its biggest leap into the unknown. All ships report ready for departure, Admiral, announced Captain Song Mira from her position at the communications console. Colony fleets 1 through 7 are standing by for jump to their assigned systems. Cho looked out at the ships carrying 30,000 of humanity's bravest souls. Colony 1 was heading to Kepler 442b, a world that seemed perfect for farming. Colony 2 would establish a mining operation at Wolf 359. Colony 3 was bound for a system with 3 potentially habitable planets. Each destination had been carefully chosen based on the best data Earth scientists could provide. Begin the jump sequence, Cho ordered, and may fortune favor the bold. 6 months later, the reports began coming back to Earth, and they painted a picture that was both inspiring and terrifying. The Vorthak predictions were proving accurate in the worst possible ways, but something unexpected was happening alongside the disasters. Colony 1 on Kepler 442b faced immediate catastrophe. Dr. Jung Sora, the chief botanist, sent desperate messages back to Earth. The soil is toxic to every Earth plant we brought. The mineral content is completely wrong. Our crops are dying and we have food for maybe 3 months. But instead of giving up or calling for evacuation, Jung Sora did something the Vorthak had never predicted. She began experimenting. She mixed Earth seeds with local microorganisms. She exposed plants to the alien soil in controlled doses. She worked 18-hour days in makeshift laboratories trying combination after combination. Day 47, her next report said, "I've created a hybrid wheat that can actually process the local minerals. It's not pretty, and it tastes terrible, but it's growing. We're not going to starve." The mining colony at Wolf 359 suffered even worse disasters. A solar flare that no one had predicted destroyed half their equipment in the first month. Then a structural failure in the main excavation tunnel killed 17 workers, including the chief engineer, Kim Dong-yun, a young metallurgist who had never expected to be in charge of anything, found himself leading the rescue efforts. "We lost good people today," he reported back to Earth. "But we found something in the collapsed tunnel. The local ore has properties we never imagined. It's stronger than anything we have, but lighter than aluminum. If we can figure out how to work with it, it could change everything." Colony 3 faced a different kind of disaster. The 3 planets they had planned to settle turned out to have atmospheres that were slowly poisonous to humans. The colonists developed a strange sickness that made breathing difficult and caused severe headaches. But Dr. Park Ji-hee, the colony's medical officer, refused to recommend evacuation. "We're adapting," she reported. "The human body is more flexible than we thought. Some of the colonists are developing resistance to the atmospheric toxins. We're studying their blood chemistry. We might be able to develop treatments for everyone." 3 colonies failed completely. Colony 5 lost contact after their main communication system broke down during landing. Colony 8 was evacuated when they discovered their chosen planet was home to aggressive native life forms. Colony 12 simply disappeared, their last message reporting strange energy readings before going silent. But even the failures taught lessons that were immediately shared across the growing human network. Communications Officer Yoon Tae-hyung, now coordinating between all the settlements from a relay station, received constant updates that amazed him. Colony 7 successfully adapted Zephyrian atmospheric recycling technology, he reported to Earth. Colony 2 has developed new mining techniques that are 3 times more efficient than anything we used on Earth. Colony 4 has made contact with a previously unknown alien species and established peaceful trade relations. The galactic observers watched all of this with growing fascination. The Zephyrians, drifting through their nebular cities, detected something they had never seen before in their quantum observations. New possibilities were spontaneously appearing in the probability matrices. Futures that had not existed before, human expansion, were suddenly becoming real. The Vorthak Collective ran their predictions again and again, but the results kept changing. Their perfect mathematical models could not account for human adaptability. Every disaster that should have ended in failure somehow became a stepping stone to something new. They learned from death, one Vorthak transmitted to another. Each failure creates knowledge. Each disaster spawns innovation. This was not in our calculations. Even the ancient keepers began updating their vast libraries for the first time in thousands of years. Young keeper scholars requested permission to observe the human colonies directly, claiming that entirely new categories of knowledge were being created. "The humans do not follow logical patterns," reported keeper archivist Tothkara. "They should have abandoned 17 different colonies by now, according to our historical models. Instead, they adapt. They change. They create solutions that should not be possible." Back on Earth, Admiral Cho received reports that made him smile despite the costs. Yes, humans were dying in space. Yes, colonies were failing. Yes, the expansion was chaotic and dangerous. But humanity was learning faster than any species in galactic history. Each mistake became wisdom that was shared with every other settlement. Each disaster led to innovations that made the next colonies stronger. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. Dr. Kim Hana floated in the command center of the Joint Research Station that now orbited the system's main star. 5 years had passed since first contact with the Vorthak, and the galaxy was no longer the same place. The station that had once been empty now buzzed with activity from 7 different alien species, all working together for the first time in their recorded history. Dr. Kim, we have another request from the Vorthak Youth Delegation, announced Lee Minho, the station's communications specialist. 3 more young Vorthak want to study what they're calling human chaos methodology. Their elders are not happy about it. Hana smiled as she looked through the transparent walls of the station. Vorthak crystal ships hung alongside human vessels, their geometric perfection contrasting with humanity's practical, boxy designs. The young Vorthak had been the first to break away from their collective's rigid thinking, fascinated by humanity's ability to succeed through failure. Tell them they're welcome, Hana said, but they'll have to start with basic safety training like everyone else. The changes had started small. A few young Zephyrians had ventured beyond their homeworld's magnetic field for the first time in 10,000 years. Curious about the humans who seemed unafraid of losing their essential nature, they discovered that while they did change when they traveled, the change wasn't death. It was growth. The first Zephyrian explorer, Whisper of Distant Stars, had sent back reports that shocked their entire civilization. I am still myself, but I am more than I was. The cosmic winds of other stars carry different songs. I have learned melodies that do not exist in our home sky. Even the ancient keepers had been forced to update their perfect libraries. Keeper of Sacred Patterns had established a research outpost near the human colony on Kepler 442b, studying how the impossible hybrid crops continued to evolve and improve with each generation. The humans create knowledge through action, the Keeper had written in reports that were read throughout their order. They learn by doing, not by observing. This generates information that cannot be gained through passive study. Admiral Li Jiwan, now overseeing humanity's expanded presence across 12 star systems, often visited the joint station to coordinate with their new alien partners. He had just arrived for a routine meeting when the most extraordinary message in galactic history came through. Attention Joint Research Station, Lee Minho announced from his communications post. We're receiving a transmission from outside the galaxy. The source is unknown. The main display activated, showing a being that looked almost human but clearly wasn't. Its features shifted like liquid light, and its eyes seemed to contain the depth of space itself. When it spoke, every translation system in the station somehow understood it perfectly. Greetings, species of action. We are the emergent. We have watched the Watchers for countless ages, waiting for change. Your expansion has accomplished something we believed impossible. You have awakened a sleeping galaxy. Dr. Hana stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her caution. Who are you? How long have you been watching us? The being's expression seemed amused. We are what becomes of civilizations that refuse to choose between safety and growth. We learned long ago that the universe rewards those who embrace both knowledge and action. For millions of years we have observed this galaxy, waiting for someone to break the cycle of stagnation. The entity gestured, and the display filled with images of the galaxy's current state. Vorthak colony ships were being constructed for the first time in 1,000,000 years. Zephyrian exploration fleets were mapping uncharted sectors. Keeper expedition vessels were launching toward the galactic core, seeking new forms of knowledge. Every major civilization in your galaxy had achieved perfect safety, the emergent continued. They had eliminated risk, uncertainty, and surprise. In doing so, they had also eliminated growth, discovery, and evolution. They became museums of their own potential. But you, the being, looked directly at the humans on the station. You leaped without looking. You failed magnificently. And, in failing, you taught the Watchers something they had forgotten, that wisdom comes not from avoiding mistakes, but from learning how to recover from them. Communications began flooding in from across the galaxy. The first Vorthak colony ship, in a million years, was preparing to launch toward the Andromeda galaxy. Zephyrian scouts had made contact with species beyond the galactic rim. The Keepers had sent expeditions to investigate the mysterious signals coming from the galactic center. What happens now? Admiral Jiwan asked. The emergence form seemed to brighten. Now the galaxy remembers how to grow. Your species didn't just take a leap into the unknown. You taught an entire galaxy how to jump. Dr. Hana watched through the station's windows as ships from dozens of species moved between the stars, many of them traveling beyond their home systems for the first time in millennia. The careful, calculated approach of the galactic civilizations was giving way to something more chaotic but infinitely more alive. "We made every mistake they predicted we would," she said to Admiral Jiwan as they watched a mixed fleet of human and alien ships prepare for a joint exploration mission to uncharted space. "Yes," Jiwan replied, "but we also did something they never predicted. We survived our mistakes and learned from them." The galaxy was no longer a place of careful observers and passive watchers. It had become a place of explorers and risk-takers, of species willing to venture into the unknown despite the dangers. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through superior technology or ancient wisdom. They had transformed it through something much simpler and more powerful: the courage to fail, learn, and try again. The Watchers had finally learned to act.